thankful that I'm feeling unpleasant emotions so that I can develop new emotional battle rhythms, new emotional patterns of action and thought. And rather than knee-jerk to a positive, knee-jerk to optimism, knee-jerk to coping with optimism or a positive cheeseball quote or some other form of avoidance. Ultimately, it's avoidance, and it's also a form of control to try to, oh man, I can't allow myself to feel this way, so let me jump into some positive quote or positive book, or the whole PMA, positive mental attitude religion that has impacted a lot of people. Man, I think like I'm trying today to be more intentional at, man, what does disheartened feel like? Like, let me own this. Let me embrace this. Let me feel this. What does discouraged feel like? What does disheartened feel like? Despondent. What does despondent feel like? And rather than run from it or avoid it, no, let me feel those emotions.
Welcome to the EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. Like most business owners, you already know you need good business and marketing strategies to scale and be profitable. But at some point, you've hit the dreaded wall where you feel stuck and frustrated. EQ for Entrepreneurs is for business owners and leaders who are honest enough to admit that they just might be the ones holding their business back and are brave enough to change that.
We're Noble and Kathy, and every week we're having candid conversations about all things emotional intelligence and how growing that has allowed us to get out of our own way and is radically transforming both our businesses and our personal lives. This is the secret sauce strategy for modern entrepreneurs who are tired of hustling without seeing results and want to grow a business and a life that they love.
Entrepreneurs, leaders, and influencers. This is going to be a funny episode from the standpoint that it is going to be probably very different than many of my other episodes. I am doing kind of terrible today. Do you know how many times those words have ever come out of my mouth? And I'm sure you can tell by the energy or my lack thereof, which is also very rare. Normally I have lots of energy, and for some reason, man, I'm not feeling it today. And another thing that's kind of funny, the irony is, for those of y'all who've been following me for a little while, last year, maybe a year and a half ago, I think I was even wearing the same shirt when I did an episode, a Facebook Live, that I think I turned it into a podcast episode of just, I was doing miserable. I just had a miserable day. And I don't know that I'm doing miserable or miserably today. I have low energy. And it's not like I did my hour and a half of jujitsu today, so it's not because, of my very intense jujitsu class. I even woke up, I just didn't feel like I had a lot of energy. It's really weird. And I've done 2 entries on my mood meter app, which I did even a podcast episode on that just a couple episodes ago. I'm discussing the value of this really neat app. It's like 99 cents. Definitely recommend it for those of y'all that are wanting to work on your self-awareness. And it can even lead into and bleed into other areas of your emotional growth as well. The 2 entries that I had today, one was, I think, discouraged maybe, and then another one was disheartened, and then another one was despondent. So maybe it was 3 entries. had to look up. The cool thing in the Mood Meter app is that once you select an emotion, then it defines it for you. Because some of these emotions I'm still learning myself. But the overall is just feeling very low energy. Also in the past, what I would do is one of the things that I kind of learned from as a result of my low awareness was I learned optimism as a coping mechanism for my lack of self-awareness. And that's so, you can look, or that can be seen as a good thing. Oh man, well, he's this optimistic, positive guy because my personality is sanguine, primarily sanguine choleric. If you're familiar with a book called Personality Plus, and sanguines are typically the life of the party, the optimistic people. Well, I even took it further because every personality, right, is the unhealthier emotionally that we are, that can exacerbate each of our personality's weaknesses. Well, in my case, because of my people-pleasing addiction that I've had for, again, 98% of my life up until just the last year or two, I developed, again, optimism to an extreme coming from an unhealthy emotional place. And again, from a position of people-pleasing addiction. And so for me, I've used optimism as a coping mechanism. And so today, I'm really trying to embrace my unpleasant emotions and allow myself to just sit in them and just like feel despondent or feel discouraged or feel disheartened. Whereas my knee-jerk reaction to an unpleasant emotion would be, oh man, I can't feel this. I can't allow myself to feel this. This is not, like almost like subconscious alarm bells would be going off. Oh man, I'm feeling discouraged or despondent or disheartened or low energy. And so I need, alarm bells, like I need to immediately fix this. I need to fix this problem. I need to fix this issue. And so today, I'm really thankful, to be honest with you. I'm thankful that I'm feeling unpleasant emotions so that I can develop new emotional battle rhythms, new emotional patterns of action and thought. And rather than knee-jerk to a positive, knee-jerk to optimism, knee-jerk to coping with optimism or a positive cheeseball quote or some other form of avoidance. Ultimately, it's avoidance, and it's also a form of control to try to, oh man, I can't allow myself to feel this way, so let me jump into some positive quote or positive book, or the whole PMA, positive mental attitude religion that has impacted a lot of people. Man, I think like I'm trying today to be more intentional at, man, what does disheartened feel like? Like, let me own this. Let me embrace this. Let me feel this. What does discouraged feel like? What does disheartened feel like? Despondent. What does despondent feel like? And rather than run from it or avoid it, no, let me feel those emotions. And then also, obviously, one of the things that I've been trying to figure out today is like, well, how did I end up here? What happened? Was there an event? No. Did someone say something to me that maybe wasn't positive? No. Did I have a different routine in my day? No. Which I think is also helpful when you're not feeling positive or on top of the world or energetic. I think it's still very healthy to maintain your routines so that you don't go further south, because I think that's another tendency. In fact, that's also something that I would do very well at. Almost maybe not quite a PhD, but at least a master's degree in taking unpleasant emotions and making them even worse. It kind of even a lot. Because what would happen in the past is I would just stew and marinate and just allow myself to just go further south, rather than like, okay, let me be intentional at processing and that kind of thing, versus going, allowing myself to even go further deeper into a pit, or maybe even further into a depression, or further into just more stress and anxiety. And I haven't totally landed. I mean, maybe I have. Maybe I've landed on a couple things that have led me to this emotional unpleasantness that I'm at today, the spot that I'm at today. And I don't know if this is all of the reasons of kind of where I ended up today, but I think part of the reasons maybe, or at least a contributing factor to why I am feeling what I'm feeling right now, is I think just for me anyway, right? Because we're all different, but for me is the unknown for the future. There's just a lot of unknowns. We're just some really interesting times in our society, in our culture, in our world. Lots of really interesting things going on, and I think part of it is just the maybe the fear of the unknown. I don't know. Normally that kind of thing doesn't ever bother me. So which makes me kind of question, okay, well, why would it bother me now? I've never been able to control the future. Why would all of a sudden I start to sweat, what's the unknown? But I think that is a part of it. And also a personal unknown of the future, not knowing what God is maybe doing in my life right now, or working on in my life. Some uncertainty, and maybe in that, maybe uncertainty and unknown is causing some low grade, anxiety or whatever. And so maybe that's also part of it. Our daughter, she's 13, and she's going to be out of the house here in just, another, 4 or 5 years now. If she chooses, whatever. I mean, obviously she maybe she decides to go to college and still live at the house for, a year or two while she's going to college, or who knows, right? So I'm not saying that we're kicking her out at 18, but I want to know that by the time she hits 18, she is ready to handle whatever that future is going to look like. So bottom line is I want her to know that at 18, she will have the freedom to move across the world and live in some other country around the world and be fine. I want to have total peace with her ability to do that. And so that clock, we're on the downhill side of our time with her. And not that obviously we'll ever see, when she leaves the house, we'll never see her again. That's not what I'm saying either. But, the thing that we've built our family for the past 16, 17 years around family. We have had more family time in our family than probably, no exaggeration, no sanguine, probably 99% of the planet. My wife and I have worked from home the past 16 years. For me, it's 15 years. My wife's 17 years. And our daughter's 13. So our daughter has had 2 stay-at-home parents her entire life. And we homeschool her. So, again, there are not many families in the world that have had the kind of family time that we've had. And we are so blessed, and I'm so thankful for that. I wouldn't have done it any differently. But the bottom line is we're 5 years out from that dynamic changing significantly, in terms of our daughter. obviously Kathy and I will still have lots of family time. We'll still be hanging out all the time together. So that's not going to necessarily change. But, so that, and so there's a lot, I think there's probably a lot in that too. Only 5 years left with our daughter. And probably counting that down. And then also just hey, are we doing enough as parents? And knowing that there are going to be some things that we're going to miss the mark on. We're not, that even with all this family time that, oh my goodness, I don't even want to think about that now that I think about it. All the things that I could be doing differently and probably should be doing differently. And, all my shortcomings. Okay, so then why am I not doing what I need to be doing as a parent? And, so anyway, that's probably more stuff. So, yeah, those are all things that are probably impacting where I'm at today. And also, I think going back to our country, and not that this, I guess maybe this isn't, maybe it's a surprise or somewhat surprising to me now, but should not be surprising in the scope of history. Every generation's experience and interaction with culture, I think, is different, right? It's got to be. And I've never really done a deep dive on this, but the country that I grew up in is not the country that my daughter is growing up in. The adulthood that my daughter experiences is not going to be the adulthood that I experienced. And I don't mean that in a good or bad way. I just mean it's different. There's probably some ways it's better and some ways it's worse. So, yeah. So again, that's not super deep or super shocking. It's just different. And maybe it falls back again on the whole parenting thing. So based on knowing that her future world, the future world that she's going to be growing up in is going to be different than the one I grew up in. And am I preparing her for that delta, for that difference that she's going to experience? And again, in some ways, maybe we're doing a decent job. In other ways, I'm sure we're probably not doing a decent job. And, man, with her faith, with her finances, with her ability to think critically, with her ability to be emotionally agile, with her ability to have emotional endurance, so anyway, I guess the big thing for me right now is trying to be okay with feeling unpleasant right now and feeling low energy and feeling, I'm not used to feeling this emotional grid right now. This emotional state that I'm in right now is not super normal for me or super natural for me. Normally I'm a fairly energetic, very positive, outgoing, gregarious guy, and today is definitely not that day. Again, I'm thankful that I've still done my normal routines today, just all with a lot less energy. And normally, too, what I have experienced or learned about myself is when I do have low energy or I'm tired, I also have noticed that I don't make very good decisions. I eat more, I procrastinate more, I'm probably shorter temper-wise. I am more slothful. I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but that's kind of like along with procrastination. But just my decision-making isn't the greatest. I make poor, so not only do I eat more, but I also make poor eating decisions. So that's just another thing about fatigue. And there's a couple of neat, cheesy quotes from a guy named Mike Murdoch. He said, "When fatigue walks in, faith walks out. When fatigue walks in, faith walks out." I don't remember the other one off the top of my head, but anyway, there's a number of them, but I know for me, so that's something I just need to be aware of too, is my decision making while I'm in this emotional state. Not, number one, just again with my energy levels being lower, but also, not again, not feeling pleasant and not feeling pleasant emotions. Allowing myself the space and the freedom to feel unpleasant, and again to do some reflection on maybe again what are other areas that maybe I'm not thinking about that are also underlying, that could be making me feel this way. And again, being okay with it, being okay with feeling unpleasant, man, is just not natural for me. It's not normal. Not that I haven't felt unpleasant or depressed or whatever before. I definitely have. I just, when those emotions and stuff come up, I usually try to avoid them. I mean, that's been my default emotional battle rhythm for my entire life prior to the last few years, has been stuff and avoid. So maybe I just watch TV all day instead of allowing myself to feel these emotions, or I just sleep all day and try to avoid feeling all these emotions, or whatever the unproductive. Not that sleeping and stuff is not productive, but I don't want to run from my emotional state. I don't want to run from it. And maybe God's trying to tell me something. What is God trying to tell me from this emotional state that I'm in right now? So anyway, I don't expect this to encourage anybody when I'm feeling miserable. I've only done one other episode out of 130 episodes, whatever we're at right now, that was just a miserable episode. That was just kind of like dumpy diapers, negative Noble. This is not my natural state, but I wanted to just be honest with you guys again and keep it real with you all, and hopefully give you the, permission or freedom or the encouragement to allow yourself to feel unpleasant emotions and just kind of sit in those unpleasant emotions. Not stew, don't, I guess, productively and intentionally feel unpleasant emotions versus what I used to do, again, and just, I feel like there's a difference between what I'm doing now and what I used to do my entire life. Again, I'm not allowing myself to stew. The other thing too, I guess, to pay attention when you're maybe not feeling pleasant is pay attention to the stories that are popping up and that are attached to these different emotions maybe that you're feeling. Because maybe some of you are feeling anger or depression or frustration or anxiety, and whatever the emotions are, just try to pay attention to the stories also that are attached to what's going on, and is it a trend? That's again one of the reasons why I've liked this mood meter app. What you can kind of, it charts out the emotions, and are there trends? Is it a time of day that I'm maybe feeling like, oh man, from 9 to noon, 80% of the days I'm feeling unpleasant, but from 7 to 9 p.m. I'm feeling high energy, pleasant. And I just made those up. I'm not saying that's what it is for me, but I think it's important to kind of find out what your energy levels are. I did an interview with a guy named John Lee Dumas, and he's probably a top 10, top 20 podcaster in the world, military veteran, and his podcast is called Entrepreneur on Fire, I believe is his podcast. Phenomenal guy, has interviewed I want to say thousands of entrepreneurs, and when I interviewed him, as a result of another buddy of mine named Chris Hoffman, who runs veterans he has a veteran podcast, the Ambitious Vet podcast by Chris Hoffman. He made a referral to me, said, hey man, why don't you interview John Lee Dumas? And I'm like, well, he's way out of my league. He never, at the time I was still very early on in my podcasting career. I still am only just over a year at doing this. But he said, when I interviewed him, John Lee Dumas, I said, what's one way that you have been intentional at making sure you're emotionally healthy, or that you're growing your emotional intelligence? And he said, I always ask myself throughout the day, how's my energy? How's my energy? And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's not something that I have. I mean, today obviously is kind of a glaring, blatant difference in my energy levels compared to other days, but I just thought that was a very interesting question, and there's probably a lot to that. I know for me, I do my best work when I have energy. I perform better overall when I have energy versus when I don't. And so, and here's another big one, and actually John Lee Dumas talked about this on the episode I did with John Lee Dumas, was his sleep. How has he been sleeping? And I know my sleep schedule is all jacked up. In fact, you know what? That's funny. I had a different sleep schedule last night than I normally do. But my normal sleep schedule is not a good sleep schedule. In fact, I took a sleep class actually recently, and discovered, not that I needed someone else to tell me, but discovered that I have a very poor sleep schedule, and that can impact all kinds of things in your life. It impacts your physiology, it impacts your chemistry, it impacts all kinds of stuff. And so that's definitely another area that I've got to improve. So maybe my sleep schedule is another thing that is playing a role in how I'm feeling today and how I'm feeling right now. But I just want to encourage you guys to allow yourself to feel unpleasant emotions. Just don't let it go the extreme into like severe depression, that kind of thing. So as always, man, reach out if you feel like, so I'll just be honest with you. If I feel like this tomorrow, like 3 days in a row, man, I'm going to reach out to somebody. I'm going to tell my wife, I'm going to say, hey, I need to talk to my counselor again. Something's up. I don't know what's going on, but something's up. So I'll pay attention to throughout the rest of the day. I'll pay attention how I'm doing tomorrow. And if I have 2 or 3 days in a row where I'm like this, because this is definitely not normal for me, then I will definitely seek help from somebody, get a counselor or something, call up my counselor. And I encourage you the same thing. So again, allow yourself to feel unpleasant emotions. If it persists multiple days, and obviously we're not doctors, we're not psychiatrists or psychologists or counselors, but my 2 cents is if an unnormal, unnatural, extreme emotional state is persisting for you, I would absolutely encourage you to reach out and get help and seek help from somebody. Again, we've had a counselor for we got counseling for probably a good year and a half, like once every 2 weeks, and it was life-changing, so helpful. And I use this analogy a lot if you follow me, is that the top athletes in the world, the top business professionals in the world, all have experts that they surround themselves with. LeBron James, Russell Wilson, Tiger Woods. I'm trying to think who else I've heard about, but I've read stuff about even Tom Brady. I've read invests $1 million just in their physical health with massage therapists and nutritionists and health coaches and strength coaches and trainers and whatever they need to make sure that they're giving their bodies the best chance of health and performance possible. Of course, their body, one could argue that for an athlete, their body is their business. But I would even argue for all the rest of us that are not professional athletes, our bodies are our businesses as well, especially for us that are entrepreneurs. Our bodies is our business. And if we're not taking care of ourselves physically with our health, that is absolutely going to impact our performance, our output, our productivity. And so I guess that'd be the other note I would encourage you guys with is take care of yourself, y'all. Take care of yourself. I had a conversation with a pastor recently. He just started a church, so a startup church, which for those y'all that are not in that world, and I'm not like I am either, I'm not necessarily in that world either, but I am friends with our pastors who started our church, and it is like starting a business. It is literally like starting a business. And I mean, for those y'all, I've been a part of 10 different startups. Startups, y'all, is no joke. And he started a church. Their grandparents, I don't remember how many grandkids they have. They just adopted multiple children that have lots of struggles. These children that they adopted. Both he and his wife have full-time jobs, and guys, that is rough. Take care of yourselves, y'all. If you don't take care of yourselves, your engine is going to run out at some point. It is going to physically, mentally, emotionally, it's going to run out. It's going to run out either in the area of your finances, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your job, in your health, there are multiple areas, there are multiple consequences for us not taking care of ourselves. So that would be the other lesson, I guess, from my emotional state that I'm in right now, is take care of yourself. For me, again, one of my therapies is jiu-jitsu. So I did my jiu-jitsu today. It was great. Very thankful for that. I still wasn't feeling the greatest even doing it, but I'm thankful that I went. I'm probably going to take a nap. And I've got to watch my eating. I've already made some bad eating decisions here just prior to jumping on this podcast. So I've just got to really pay attention to make sure that I don't completely blow it or lose my mind while I'm in this emotional state, and that I don't, here's another great example. I've heard this said before: don't go shopping when you're hungry. And I've done that before. When you're in an extreme emotional state, it's very easy, again, to make rash, abrupt, short-sighted, unthought-through decisions. And I just want to make sure that I don't go completely off the rails in this emotional state that I'm in. So figure out what your boundaries are, your left and right limits are going to be when you are in an emotional state that maybe is not so positive. Maybe, call a friend, hey, just want to reach out and just let you know I'm not feeling super great today. And not like sick, just emotionally, I'm not feeling great today. And maybe you go do coffee with a friend as a boundary for you to kind of check yourself and keep yourself in check. Maybe it's, again, calling a friend. Maybe it's listening to some music that maybe can uplift you. Maybe it's going for a walk, getting outside, doing some push-ups, doing something physical is helpful, very helpful. Again, not at the avoidance of allowing yourself to feel the unpleasant emotions, but as a boundary to not let yourself go super south with those unpleasant emotions. And for those of you all, again, that would like an EQ assessment, check out our EQforentrepreneurs.com/training website. For those of you all that are interested in our course, 8-week course on helping people grow their emotional intelligence, check out EQforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. And we'd love for you to share any episodes that you feel are encouraging for you, maybe with friends or family members. Also review. We'd love to hear your reviews as well. Maybe not after today's episode. You're like, this guy is a complete train wreck and a bonehead, which sometimes is probably absolutely very much the case. But anyway, yeah, we would love your reviews, and just let us know maybe how an episode or some of the episodes have impacted you. That would mean a lot for us. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you guys for watching us on YouTube, our YouTube channel, again, and or our podcast, EQ for Entrepreneurs. And emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. Also, unaddressed emotional issues do not get better over time. They actually compound. Unaddressed emotional issues do not get better over time. They actually compound. So pursue your own emotional growth so that again, emotionally, you can become emotionally healthy, and you can help other people heal emotionally as well, just through your own emotional health and emotional healing and emotional growth of your own emotional intelligence.